Communities have become stronger because we know we got us, right? And so this is kind of why I chose the tree, el árbol, because there is so much work, so much history of our people laying down roots, really fighting back, really, right, talking about what is happening and dissecting all these things. And, we've been doing this fight for hundreds of years, right? So one of the things that I keep hearing is, this is something new. We haven't done anything in the last year. And it's like, no. Let's not get it confused. Our people have been doing things. People of color, women of color, queer and trans folks, youth of color, we've been doing the work. Just because you don't see us or recognize us, that doesn't mean we haven't done anything.
The future is that over this last year, we have seen sustainable and very important, not just rallies, but marches. We've seen pushback in policies and things like that. We see groups of people who are taking back the power to define for themselves rules that should govern them, right? Taking back the power to try to define where they can be and how they can be. This is the journey of liberation. For us to begin to try to say, we want to define all of what we can for ourselves.
What liberation means is very personal, but it's also collective. And I am a troublemaker because I choose to put my love of the people first and challenge myself, I'm speaking from the I, to redefine that and transition that and allow that to grow and progress as I learn more and as I connect with others more. The Praxis Project has played a key role in that for me, connecting with people who are doing work, boots on the ground, just like myself, from all over the country.
When we have the promise of future generations, when we are not fighting for our breath, when there's healing, knowing what joy is, that everything that we understand, it is formed in joy and also in love in our communities, and that is liberation. When we recognize that Indigenous languages are official languages, the land back hashtag, recognizing the wisdom and knowledge that our ancestors and elders carry that need to be recognized as being official, and most times they are not in textbooks, and also that liberation is water access. Food is something that brings us together, and it's part of my work, it's part of everything that I do, but also for each and every one of us. Without food, we will not be able to be here every day. And many of us are striving for the food justice and also addressing the lack of access to healthy food, trying to increase that, especially even more during the pandemic. And so as we think about love and food and joy, and thinking about just not us and like what we like or what we're experiencing, but also the ancestors, what we've been through, the thousands of years that our ancestors have stewarded, like the corn necklace that I'm wearing, the tag that I'm wearing, I'm the food change, that we are going through this time of addressing food apartheid. And it's come from generations of work. It's come from those who have sacrificed their lives, those who have been able to dig the fields, to tend to the gardens, to seed save, to be able to bring taste education to the table, and also to bring sovereignty to the table in the kitchen, and also to exercise that, to bring biodiversity in our plates, in our planting, and also in the resistance of what we say and doing what we're putting on our plates. I'm gonna start off with the first question, telling us a story that you first interacted with a meal or food or even a tradition that you loved.
I was the only one helping my mom out in the kitchen. So we would always make this lemongrass paste called grung. And it's so many herbs that comes together. And if we didn't have the herbs, we would always knock on neighbors' doors. And that's how community grows, because we would always ask for, extra herbs. You can make it in soups. You can freeze it. It lasts very long. In this lemongrass paste, I do want to add is lemongrass, galangal, turmeric, kaffir lime leaves, and some use ginseng and a lot of garlic. And a lot of Southeast Asian herbs, it's in the name, like it's not native to the indigenous land, like in America. So it tells a lot. It tells a lot about resiliency, and also survival. Just the fear of like not knowing where you're going to be, being resettled. Cambodian refugees from the war in 1970 had to flee their homeland, and so it's the fear of like not knowing where to go, and they were resettled 3 times. And so like each herb that they brought with them came out of wanting to survive and having their culture survive, knowing that the only way to push through, and especially for future generations, is to bring part of our motherland somewhere else with us to grow in a strong community. So each ingredient that I mentioned is really important, because it talks about our survival. We work with young Southeast Asian youth. Institutions are culturally insensitive. They don't teach our history. They don't teach the authenticity of their colonialism, their imperialism, and they don't tell the truth. So what we build into our curriculum and our trainings is that we revitalize our cultural trainings. So we do cooking classes, we do our wellness practices, we do our wellness trainings. So recently we just did a whole segment about tea and how it's healing. We also teach about food too.
Think about what systems have been placed on us, the food systems that have been placed on, the attitudes, the culture, the habits, everything. There's a part of it that still resonates joy, that still resonates the strength of who we are in either feeding one another or cooking together, harvesting together. There's so many different beautiful foods out there that when we think about the roots and our animal and plant relatives, what is it that brings us joy?
My mother is from the South, and when we were younger, you would see the sink full of greens, and I absolutely loved eating the collard greens and what they call, the pot liquor, which is when you drink the juice that come off the greens after they're cooked, and it has so much vitamins, but I don't care about that. I love vinegar and that sour taste, so I would always add a little bit more vinegar to my mother's pot, and she would say, Keisha's been here again. I grew up in the 80s, and then I would see a few backyards where a lot of Black people in the Los Angeles area, and that's where I'm based right now, had come from the South. So they brought with them the Southern traditions that were actually brought from Africa. And so little places, some houses in the neighborhood in South Central Los Angeles, you would see collard greens growing, or tomatoes or peppers. But over time, I saw people didn't have time to grow things, or didn't make time to grow things. And so they relied on stores to get food. And what you found in the Black community in South Central Los Angeles is that the stores didn't have food available that was healthy to us. So I like that you're calling it food apartheid. I'm sad that it has to exist, where you create a situation in society where people are dependent upon a way of life, and then that way of life is detrimental to their health. And so we have to learn and be the model to have more food choices for people. We have something called Kitchen Divas. So we did our first international Kitchen Divas today with Black Women for Wellness. I found that people were just happy to see food being cooked, because no one's cooking at home anymore. So tomorrow we're planting a garden, whether we know how or don't know how, to try and get back into knowing where our food comes from and getting in touch with it, how relaxing it can be to go weed or water or watch food grow, and then to actually taste it out of the garden is amazing. And so I love that feeling, and I want us to get to that. And that's what we have found at Black Women for Wellness.
When we think about, our experience of the recipes that either have been passed down or that maybe we're trying or reactivating or reclaiming, the next question: what is the recipe that tells your story? What are the things, with our cultural histories, our origin stories, or, just being in the space of relearning like who we are, reclaiming our food ways, our life ways?
So for me, what comes to mind are some of the traditional foods and, our separation from a lot of our foods, right? Like, even ancestrally, there's foods that are considered superfoods today that were demonized, by popular society. And now you can only get them at Trader Joe's and Whole Foods, man, right? And even our people can't even afford some of these foods, right? The staples, for a lot of indigenous, foods here of my culture, of course, are the aguacate, lemon. We put lemon on everything. We squeeze lime and lemon on everything, and we top it off with some chile, always. And of course, who are we? Our stories go back eons and eons about maize, corn, right? Many of you who know about our work here at La Placita, that for over a decade, we've been sponsoring traditional healers to come here every year. And recently, in the past 5 or 6 years, we intentionally asked them to reintroduce to us comida saludable, healthy food that have these, core connections to our culture for thousands of years, and bringing that back and reclaiming that, and saying, hey, this is our medicine. But yeah, reclaiming those traditional main crop, staple foods that bring life and taste and flavor and beauty to what we consume. We have some really simple, basic grassroots little gardens, and we're growing food. And we go through the painstaking, processes of being certified organic. We do it because, one, we believe in si se puede. We can do this. Two, we do it because we want to provide certified organically grown produce and crops and give it to the most vulnerable of the vulnerable. And today, several pounds of certified organic asparagus went into the youth detention center here in Bernalillo County in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And this evening, kids who are currently incarcerated will be eating our asparagus and eating our produce. And there's nothing to me more revolutionary, no more justice than taking back the nutrition of the most vulnerable people in our society, and that's children who are incarcerated. The arrested diet for hundreds of years, the oppression, the suppression, the apprehension of our food, and our capacity to grow and to provide that nourishment to our people. We believe we're providing, medicine.